Welcome to Naturally You Radio with your host, Leah Salmon, the Naturally You Coach. Leah is a best-selling author of 6 books, homeschooling mother of 7, natural health, well-being coach, and speaker who wants to help you create a life that nourishes and fulfills you on all levels, with advice on naturally healthy living, homeschooling, family, relationships, and personal development. And here's your host, Leah Salmon.
Hi, this is Leah Salmon, the Naturally You Coach, and today I'm going to be talking about something I get asked all the time, which is how to balance your family, business, and life without going crazy. It's almost as if people think I don't go crazy in this house. Oh my goodness. If you were to see me at some points during the day, wow. Oh goodness, you might find somebody else to ask, but I have been doing this for 10 years. I do have some experience in how to balance your family and your business and your life without going crazy all the time so that you can continue to grow and evolve and develop in the way that you want to so that you can create a life that nourishes and fulfills you on all levels, or what I call being naturally you. And this is Naturally You Radio. Welcome. I am going to be doing a more in-depth version of what we're going to be talking about today for a course on the Salmon University. So if you go to salmonuniversity.com, which is AMUNUNIVERSITY.com, you can sign up to the mailing list to find out when that course is going to be available. And from now until the 3rd of February 2016, all the courses on the Salmon University are free because we're in test mode. So I want you to go on there and do the courses and see how they are and give me as much feedback as possible so I can make the courses as wonderful as possible for you guys. So today, we're talking about how to balance your family, business, and life without going crazy, especially as a mother and as a mother and a wife, because that's what I've got the most experience in. And I work with a lot of mothers and wives who have businesses or are working, and I help them to create balance in their life, as well as helping them to improve their life with their food and natural remedies and personal development. So I'm going to be covering 5 areas today that I really want you to keep in mind, which is your expectations, sacrifices, planning, your why, and support. So I'm going to be going through them quite quickly today, just to give you some starting points or some things to think about. But like I said, I'm going to go in more detail in this for a longer course. And if you have any other questions about things that you feel I didn't answer or you would like me to add, then please feel free to get in touch. Email me at leah@thenaturallyyoucoach.com or info@salmonuniversity.com and let me know what it is that you would like me to add to make this more useful for you. So, number 1, expectation. What a lot of people do is they will compare themselves to other people's show reels. And I've spoken about this before. Basically, when you are an actor or a singer or an artist of some type, you put together like a video version of a CV. And that is a little video showing snippets of the best parts of your career, the scenes in the movies you did really well in, the really epic performances that you've done on stage, and you put them all together into this show reel, and it shows all the best bits of what you've done. It doesn't show the bloopers. It doesn't show the bits where you've fluffed your lines. It doesn't show the bits where you just couldn't even be bothered to leave your house to even show up to things because you were just feeling that bad. It just shows the best parts. So when you're thinking about your life, it's best not to try to compare yourself to anybody else's, what is put out there, especially on social media and the way that we are glued to social media so much these days. We see a lot of the best bits of people's lives, and I definitely do my best to show the best bits of what's happening in my life, not to impress people, but to impress on people that there is a way to create a life where you are able to fulfill your dreams and create things that you want to create and start businesses and homeschool your children and do all these types of things, even though you've got a lot going on, or even if you don't have a lot of time, or you don't have a lot of resources, or you don't even believe you can do it currently. There's still a way to do it, which is why a lot of natural health professionals like myself will show pictures of things that we're doing in our lives. Now, like myself, you are a pioneer in your family or in your immediate circle of friends in what it is that you're doing, you may need to find a new circle. Now, what I mean by that is, for example, I'm the first woman that I know of in my family who homeschools, who has 6 children, and who's been married for any length of time and runs a business. I'm the only person. So there's no one in my immediate surroundings, like immediate surroundings, who I can really talk to about things when things are going crazy. There's no one I can turn to and say, oh my gosh, look, I'm trying to, do coaching calls and write this book and do this live event, but the children, I need to do their planning and the house is a mess and I need to spend more time with my husband because we're not getting on that well. Like, there's no one I can turn to because there's not that many people around me who could relate and say, girl, yeah, I went through that last week. This is what you need to do. Have you tried this? This happened to me last week. I don't have that. So I am a pioneer in my immediate surroundings. So what I've had to do is venture past my immediate surroundings and find other people who are in a similar situation to me, who have been through what I've been through, that can show me and give me advice on how I can balance my family, business, and life without going crazy, because I can see that they're doing it, and then I can take inspiration from them. Unfortunately, what some of us will do, we'll go to people who can't relate to our situation and ask for their advice. Their advice is only going to be from their vantage point. And if you've got one child, for example, who is quite demanding, and you've got to go to work and you work long hours, but you still want to spend time with your child, and you seek advice from someone who has no children and who works part-time, they're not going to be able to give you much more than their take on things or their opinion on things, as opposed to actually being able to give you advice that really can help you. And oftentimes, if the person that you're seeking advice to is close enough to you, you will ignore the fact that maybe they don't, no offense, but they don't really know what they're talking about in practical terms. Maybe they're just getting this from what they've read in a magazine somewhere or watched on a YouTube video somewhere. So you may end up taking their advice, and then you're probably going to end up being even more unbalanced with your family and business and life, and end up feeling like you're going crazy because you feel like you're the only person that's going through this, because there's no one around that can support you in the way that you need to be supported. So you do need to venture out. There's an expression that says you will earn the net worth of the 5 people that are closest to you. You will become like the people who are the 5 people that are closest to you. And the same goes when you're a mother who runs a business and wants to keep everything balanced. You may need to venture outside those people that are typically closest to you. Again, you're not going to kick your friends to the curb and kick your family to the curb. You just need to seek help and support from better sources. Now, another thing is, you do need to expect and appreciate the fact that as you're growing and developing in these multiple roles that a lot of women are taking on, there are going to be times when it is very challenging. You literally need to think to yourself, what is the worst that can happen? And then prepare yourself that one day that might happen. Like, there might be a time, like, for example, for example, there are times I am homeschooling. I've got everything set out, everything's planned. I'm in our main room, and the big 3 girls are sitting at the table. They've got their books out, they've got their pens out. I'm up at the whiteboard. We're about to get into some serious learning, and then the 5-year-old has a bit of a tantrum, which sets off the 3-year-old, and then when I'm trying to deal with them at the same time as, trying to explain some really complicated stuff to the older 3, then the baby starts crying, and then the phone goes, and then the 3-year-old pees herself on the floor, and the 5-year-old is about to run through that pee, and I know that if he runs through that pee, he's going to slip and hurt himself, and then I'm going to have to deal with that as well. But the baby girl's crying, who is 3 months, I swear to goodness, those things happen. And while all of that is happening, the phone rings and the door goes all at the same time. Now, the 3 older children sitting at the table, they are now getting fidgety and agitated, and they're getting bored, and they're like, oh gosh, why would we have to sit here? Then they start playing and they start getting loud, and all of these things are happening. And I seriously just look at the room like, maybe I just want to just go upstairs right now. This is crazy. You need to literally prepare your minds that worst case scenario could happen, and you need to say to yourself, despite the fact that I know this is going to happen, I'm still going to deal with it, and I'm going to find a way to deal with it, and I'm going to work through it, and it is going to be okay. Because sometimes these major catastrophe type things that happen are a little bit unexpected to us, and it kind of feels like breaking point because it's beyond what we ever thought could have possibly happened. So if you do prepare yourself, there are going to be times when it is super bad, but there are also going to be times when everything runs like absolute clockwork and you feel like an absolute superstar by the end of the day, because you've managed to do all the laundry, the house is gorgeous, you've fulfilled 4 orders for your customers, they're all going to get their stuff on time, you've managed to sit down and play a game of blackjack with your husband, the food that you made that day turned out amazingly, you had time to get dressed properly, your nails are done, your hair looks great, and by the end of the day, you've already WhatsApped 3 of your friends to find out what's been going on. And you just feel like an absolute G by the end of the day. Those days are also going to happen. And you need to appreciate that both ends of the spectrum are going to create what it is that you are, which is a mother who has ups and downs, a business owner who has ups and downs, and a wife who has ups and downs. And when you appreciate that all these things need to happen to create the being that you're going to become, it's going to become easier. Now, the next part is sacrifice. You do need to be prepared to change your life. If you move from being single to married, if you move from having 1 child to 2, if you move from having no children to a child, if you move from just being an employee, not just being an employee, but being an employee with a certain set of responsibilities to running your whole entire business, and sometimes even running your business with people that you're hiring, you need to be prepared to change your life in accordance with those things. If you used to like going partying every single weekend, but in order to do the things that you want to do and become the person you want to become without feeling stressed, you need to park some of those activities, that's going to have to be a sacrifice that you make. But there's an expression that says people who are successful or, big entrepreneurs live in a way that no one wants to live for 2 years so that they can live in a way that everyone wants to live for the rest of their life. You do need to spend some time sacrificing and giving up things like TV time and having nice hair all the time and your nails being done all the time and your clothes being vomit free all the time and having enough free time to just chill and do nothing and having a quiet house and having time where you can just hang out with your husband or your wife, or being able to sit and Telegram or WhatsApp or text message your friends all day. Sometimes having a tidy house, you need to sacrifice having a tidy house, because if you spend all day tidying your house, you won't actually get your homeschooling done. You won't get any time to spend with your children. Because remember, your children often spell love T-I-M-E. The more time you spend with them, even if that time is in a dirty house, that's what they consider love. So yeah, definitely I feel like a terrible mother when there's dishes in the sink or my floors are not hoovered. Those are my 2 bad things. I can't stand it when the bathroom's not clean, the floors are not hoovered, and the dishes are not done. Those things stress me out. When those things are done, I feel, oh, great, I'm doing great as a mom. This is going well. But my children don't care if the bathroom's not clean and the floor hasn't been hoovered and the dishes are a mess. If I sit down and I'm reading a story with them and I'm animating it and I'm using funny voices, that's what they care about. That's what they're going to remember. That's going to nourish and grow them and fulfill them and make them happier children, which will mean they won't act up as much, which will make my job as a parent easier. Because people will often ask us, wow, your children are really well behaved, they're calm, they don't act up a lot. My children are very energetic, and yes, they do act up a lot, but yeah, they are very well behaved children because we have invested time in them. And I did realize that it is important to spend more time with them and catch behavioral changes when they start and nip them in the bud as soon as possible by doing things like positive reinforcement, but also, taking things away from them, taking treats away from them if they're not behaving, and only giving it back to them when they do start behaving so that they learn consequences, but doing those types of things and being strict with those types of things with your children involves time. Like with our children, sometimes the bedtime routine, around that terrible 2 period, the bedtime's routine is normally when you need to stop what you're doing and focus on your child. Because if that child doesn't want to go to sleep, we do the thing where, okay, if you're going to be crying a lot, then you have to go and, maybe you have to sit on the top of the stairs. And, this is if they're acting up and they're crying and they're misbehaving and doing all these things. They have to sit at the top of the stairs, and they are not allowed to move from the top of the stairs until they've stopped crying for a full 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes, depending on their age. The older they are, the longer they have to sit there quietly. And when they've done that, they're allowed to move to their bedroom door and sit at their bedroom door. And again, they have to sit there quietly for a certain amount of time. And when they've done that, they can then move and sit on the bed. And they're basically earning their way back into getting into bed and going to sleep if they kick up and have a tantrum, or they're not listening to what it is that you want them to do. And if they start crying again at any point, they move back a step in that process. So you could, when your child kicks up and doesn't want to go to bed and starts making a fuss at night, just give them whatever they want, just so that they go to bed right then, so you can go downstairs and have your free time. Or you can, okay, I do need to sacrifice some time and dedicate some time to this child right now. Those are the types of sacrifices we're talking about that you do need to be prepared to make. And the thing is, once you've made them a few times, and it may seem like forever, but once you've done them a few times, that sets you up for their behavior being so much better that in the long run, you're actually saving time and you're creating a more stable child who understands consequences and is easier to manage in general. Planning is the third thing. Now, you need to dedicate time to planning. The saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, in my experience, is 100% true. If I want all my children to do some chores in the house, but I don't have a plan for the chores that they're going to do, when it comes to chores time, they're going to be like, I'm going to have 4 children asking me, oh, what do I need to do? And I'm going to have to work out right then what they need to do. As opposed to me sitting down, planning all the chores, printing the chores up and sticking them up somewhere so everyone can go and read it, they can go and do the chores. If I don't do that and chore time is chaotic, I'm going to be sitting there having to do all the chores myself, as an example, which is going to make me lose time that I could be spending on the business or, spending time with my husband or helping them with the remaining chores or doing homeschool planning or whatever it is, it's going to be sacrificed because I didn't take the time to plan. The same thing with homeschooling. Yes, I understand that there's different types of homeschooling. There's like unschooling and there's child-led learning. All of those things are great and they have their place. But if you find that you are having difficulty balancing your homeschooling and or spending time with your children if you're not homeschooling, and doing activities with your children, if you're finding it difficult to do all of those things, then maybe you need to adapt the way that you're living. And like I said, be prepared to change and be prepared to sacrifice, even if it's for a short time until you get back into the swing of things. Because the plan can just be an initial crutch, not a crutch, it can be an initial springboard to get your life back on track. And then you can deviate away from the plan in small places, but with that the safety of the plan still being underneath there. It can be something you jump back to when things are kind of going astray. You need to make sure that you dedicate time to planning. So you're not just going to start planning at the beginning of chore time. Okay, this is what all the chores are going to do. I'm going to write them down now. You need to, a lot of people will do it on a Sunday night. If Monday is the beginning of their typical work week, they'll spend Sundays planning. What I've started to do, following the example of a homeschooler that is kind of more in a similar situation than me, what she does is she spends one whole week planning, and then she does all the planning for homeschooling for 5 weeks. So she'll do 1 week of planning, the children have the week off, and then they'll do 5 weeks of homeschooling and then another week off, and she'll plan during that week. So that's what I still do. I have 1 or 2 weeks of planning. We've just had a newborn. Our baby's 3 months old, so we've had slightly longer breaks between those 5 weeks. But yeah, we get all our planning done then. And what it means is that everybody in the house kind of knows what's going on, and you plan into your plan time for yourself, making sure everybody takes a bit of the load off your shoulders so you're not feeling overwhelmed, and you do plan into that plan time for you to spend and dedicate to everything else. You have to respect that plan, and you have to make sure you do your best not to get distracted from it. So if you're not really a morning person, But in order to get everything done, you do need to start waking up early. And the plan says you get up early, stop going to bed late. Because if you're already not a morning person, you need to make sure you're getting as much rest as possible. Because if you continue to go to bed late, the likelihood is you're just not going to be getting up on time. And then the whole plan goes out the window if it's quite a tight plan. But if you do respect the plan, and you are going to have to, again, make that sacrifice of not being able to stay up all night and watch movies, you are going to have to go to bed at a more reasonable time so that you can wake up and fulfill this plan that's ultimately going to make your life better. The other thing with planning is you need to be prepared to adapt the plan. Now, I spend maybe 20 minutes putting a day plan together. I will print it off on colored paper. Sometimes I'll laminate it. And, it looks all pretty. And there was a time when if I had done all that work to put a plan together, I don't want to change the plan. We're just going to make the plan work. Even if the plan is not working, I'm not doing all that work again because it looks so cute up on the wall. Why do I want to redo it? However, I do appreciate that I've learned that even if I need to change that plan every month to adapt it slightly to make it fit our needs so that it works, that time is absolutely worth it. Like I said, there's times when we've had new children, newborns, so we've adapted the plan to that. When the younger children get a little bit older and I need to add them to the main homeschooling, I'll add time for that. There's been times when I've noticed I'm not spending enough time with the younger children, so I planned in time to spend with the younger children while the older children have a break, and so that the younger children get some dedicated time with me. I schedule in exercise time. I schedule in bulk meal planning time. I'll schedule in music lessons if I think the children need to do more music lessons because they've started to ask about music lessons, for example. So I do change the plan to meet the needs, and you may need to do that as well. So when you when you want to get more involved with your business, for example, you may need to change the plan to add more time where you're dedicated to your business, and that could be 30 minutes a day. That could be if your children have 30 minutes or an hour TV time, that could be your time to work on your business during the day. And it may seem like a small amount of time, but it is time because in 5 days, that's 2.5 hours. You can do a lot in 2.5 hours. If you've got a business, you can do a whole lot in 2.5 hours. Now, the other thing that's very important is to monitor your success, because in the planning of things, even though you can have a plan and everything's going to plan in that plan, things can sometimes speed by so quickly in a day that you lose track of all the things that you actually have accomplished. So one of the things that I also find quite useful is to have little to-do lists, maybe at the beginning of the week or the beginning of the month, sometimes at the beginning of the day, and tick things off as I'm going along so I can see what it is that I've achieved, because you can end up feeling very tired at the end of the week and not even be able to name 5 things that you've accomplished. It just feels like, oh gosh, all I've done is the dishes, all I've done is cook, all I've done is the laundry. But no, actually, you scheduled social media posts, or you handmade a crocheted hat and you wrapped it really nicely and posted it to your auntie, or you actually sat down and helped your son learn how to memorize really tricky learning words, or you and your daughter sat down together and now she knows her 5 times tables. Like, there's a lot of things you probably did, but without actually knowing it because you weren't monitoring your success. And when you do monitor your success and look back on it, it is very motivating and very inspiring. Knowing why. Now, this is the big one. When things do get really, this is a young people's expression, so if you're older, this may not make sense, but it will when I start explaining it. When life gets peak, when everything feels like it's hitting the fan, when you feel like you're tearing your hair out, when you feel like you just can't go on, the children are going to go back into school, or you're just going to get a childminder, or, you just want to throw in the towel in some way, shape or form. You need to remind yourself, and it has to be very clear in your mind, why it is that you're doing this. So, for example, when homeschooling gets really terrible for me, and it gets really trying for me, and I find it, quite stressful, I always have to ask myself, okay, if I'm not going to homeschool, then what? When the business gets stressful for me and I'm like, I can't focus on the book amendments, or I'm not finding the time to do the coaching clients, or I feel I'm too tired to give my coaching clients my full attention, or I really don't want to do this radio show because I don't think I'm going to do it well enough, or, oh my gosh, this live event is too stressful to organize it, blah, 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 blah. When I have all those thoughts, my first question to myself is, okay, then what are you going to do? When healthy eating, especially for the children, feels like it's a little bit stressful. I've been doing that for a really long time, so that's not something that troubles me that much. But when it does feel like, oh, let me just get them anything to eat. Oh, can't we just go out and eat somewhere? Because I just really don't want to cook tonight. Or when I have all those thoughts, I do have to ask myself, okay, then what? So with the homeschooling, fine, Leah, if you're not going to homeschool, what are you going to do with the children? Because their father works, your husband works. What's he going to do? Stop working to homeschool the children? Okay, fine, put the children into school. But Leah, you've said you don't want your children to be in the school environment that wasn't catered for them. So if you put them into that school environment, and then what you know will happen to them happens to them, how are you going to feel about that? And at that point, even before then, your children are going to have to be in school uniform. They're not going to be able to just wear what they want, like they love doing. You know there's a smile on their face when they get to choose their own clothes and they come down looking happy. And your son's like, oh, can I wear my African clothes today? I'm like, yeah, sure, son, go and get dressed. They're not going to be able to just run out into the back garden and play in nature whenever they want to during the day if they're at school. If they need to go to the toilet really badly, they may not be able to go if they're in school. You know that Black boys, for example, are not treated the same as all other students in a lot of schools. So that means your son may end up being left behind or stuck in the system, or even worse, end up in that school to prison pipeline. Your girls are going to be influenced and, put in front of images that don't look like them, and influenced to maybe think about things in a non-cultural way that doesn't support and fulfill all of their needs as young Black girls. Are you willing to do all of that? When my train of thought goes down that road, all of those questions hardly ever even get answered. I'll maybe ask myself 2 or 3 of those questions, and it's like, oh geez, forget it, they're not going into school. I'm going to work it out, it's fine. We'll be fine. When it comes to the business, there are times when it does just feel like I can't run this business anymore. It's just too much. There's too much going on. I just need to dedicate myself to one thing, which is the children or the homeschooling or the house, blah, 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 blah. Then it's like, okay, but Leah, look what you've done while having the children and homeschooling. Can you imagine what you're going to do now the children are getting older and they're needing you less? If you stop now, the potential is that all of the great things that you've already done, which you could double or triple in the future, are not going to happen. All those hundreds of people that have come to your events, the people that have watched your videos and read your books and you've coached and done private work with, all of those people are not going to get the help that you could be offering. All those things, all that information you have inside you is not going to get out to the people. Are you happy to deal with that? Are you happy to live like that? Then, I'll go on Facebook or I'll get emails or go on my website and there's people that are telling me how much the work that I've done has helped them. I then again, have to sit back and say, okay, I'm going to find a way to work this out. Those reasons why, you have to make sure they're so clear in your mind. As a mother, I feel it's imperative that I ensure my children have a childhood they don't have to recover from in adulthood. As a natural health coach, it's so important to me that I let people know in as many ways as I possibly can that being healthy and eating whole foods and using natural remedies and personally developing yourself will enable you to live a life that nourishes and fulfills you on every level so you can achieve great things. And that, to me, is so important. It's so important that I'm able to do that. Those are my big whys. Those are the big reasons why. With the children's healthy eating, sometimes I want to go out and eat and just let them eat anything. But I also, again, I know that if I do that, fine, go on, take them out, let them eat anything. You know that you're going to be the one dealing with the repercussions of them going out and eating anything when they're having digestive problems and then they're getting rashes on their faces or they start acting, crazy or irritable or hyperactive because of what you fed them. That's okay, I'll find a way. You have to be so clear on your why, and that why can help to be what helps you find the way to deal with everything that's going on and put it into some order. And when that why has become clear again, then you think about your expectations, you think about something you may need to sacrifice, and you start planning. So they all tie together. The last thing is support. Support can come in so many ways. You just need to find the one that suits you. So once you've clear on your why it is that you want to do things, and you think about your expectations, and maybe realizing that some of your expectations are what's causing you to feel a certain way, and then you think about maybe some of the things you're going to have to sacrifice in order to create a life that is able to house all these things that you want to without you having to go crazy. Then you put a plan together about how you're going to achieve all these things so that you can create some balance. Once you've done all of that, you are going to need some support to make all of these things happen. So if, like me, you have a certain level of pride, it may be initially difficult for you to begin to tell people that you need help, and when you're not feeling great, so that they can help you. Because we say it to our children all the time: if you don't tell me what's wrong, I can't help you, but I can obviously see something's wrong with you. And there are people around you who are probably saying the same thing or thinking the same thing. They're like, sis, I can see that you need help, and I can see that there's something that's not right, but you need to tell me what it is so that I can help you in some way, because you would be amazed at what help is out there and from who until you ask, or until you lose your pride and let people know how, what life is like for you at that precise moment. Now, you can get help through reading a book or doing a program, or from actually hiring a coach, whether that's a life coach or a business coach. You can do it through going to a class and learning how to support yourself in this particular area. You could get support from your parents. Some people have amazingly supportive parents. Some people have parents who would be more supportive if they knew their children needed support. Again, there's sometimes we feel, I can't ask my parents for help because they're going to think, I couldn't handle it on my own, whatever. Forget what you think they're going to think about you and ask for help, because you don't realize some of our relatives around us and our friends around us are just waiting to be able to offer their assistance and help and feel needed and feel appreciated and feeling able to help you in that way. So please don't be afraid to ask. Like, obviously, some of us know what the answer is going to be. But even still, even if you know that every single time you ask for something, you get the same answer, there may be another way that you can ask, or there might be something else that you can ask them for that they are happy to help with. Again, you can ask friends, obviously friends that you trust. They can be a form of support. Other family members, or your spouse even. So the dynamic between husband and wife can be challenging sometimes, and you can often feel, I can't ask him for this, or I can't ask her for that because he's already doing a lot or she's already doing a lot. But again, you would be surprised at how much your spouse, your partner, is willing to do for you, especially if you explain to them the situation that you're in or how you're feeling. If it means that they have to be the one that wakes up with the children 2 or 3 days a week so that you can just get a lie in 2 or 3 days a week, and maybe they're not morning people either, but if you ask them and let them know how much that's going to help, they may be more than willing to do it. But you do need to be able to ask. You need to be dedicated and unflinchingly respectful of your own time. When you're doing your planning, make sure you include your time, me time, in your planning. Even if that me time lasts 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, or you may be in a situation where you can have a whole day off if you really wanted to, but you need to make sure you have your me time planned in. And that is a form of supporting yourself, is giving something to yourself. Because when you're a business owner and you're a mother and you're a wife, you will spend a lot of time giving to loads of other people and emptying your resources without using any of your time to replenish yourself. So you have to definitely make sure that you are giving yourself as much support as you are going out there to seek support from other people. So, for example, we have a lot of people in our home. So, I don't have like a whole room I can go to that's just my own. However, what I did is I set up a really small altar. When we had just a really small amount of space in my room, there was a little altar that I set up for myself. And even though it was literally like a small box with some material over it and some candles and an incense burner and a little statue of Ammon, and a picture on the wall behind it, it felt like a sanctuary. Sitting in front of it and lighting those candles was the most amazingly relaxing thing. And I'm going to set one up again when I find another little spot in the house to do so. And it was respected by other people in the house as well. So even though the young ones did want to go and touch it, the older ones would normally ask them to kind of step away and leave it alone. And it wasn't something that was tampered with. And it was very much something that I felt was mine. And when I went and sat there, that's when I could have my reflective thinking time. So when things were going bad, I could go and sit there and think about my why. When things were going bad, I can go and sit there, think about other ways I could get support, or think about my expectations. Okay, am I angry because I expected this day to go differently? Am I angry because I expected this day to go better than it did? Am I angry because I didn't sacrifice TV time last night, so I stayed up really late watching nonsense that I could have watched at another time, which meant I went to bed later and woke up cranky and tired? That's what my little altar gave me the ability to do, my small amount of space there. And I know that there's a couple called Sematawi and Heket, and they do Kemetic yoga, and there's a picture of those two and another one of their friends sitting on London Bridge. I think it looked like on a really busy road with loads of people walking back and forth, but all three of them are sitting there in like a yoga kind of cross-legged pose, looking completely calm. And I think they were saying that the point behind the picture is that you need to be able to find calm and center and peace, even if there's crazy stuff happening all around you. So that is something that you need to create for yourself and dedicate to yourself. Now, one of the things that I do that I've just gotten into the habit of doing is during my time, like in the evenings when I do work, when my husband's come home and he takes over from the children, if the children come and ask me something, I will literally say to the children, I'm not here, go and ask your dad. I'm not here, go and ask your dad. I love you, come and give me hugs, but I'm not here, go and ask your dad. And before, if one of the children came up and asked me a question, I would stop what I was doing. It didn't matter what I was doing, unless I was on a coaching call. But I would stop what I was doing. I would get up. I would go and attend to what it is that they wanted. Do you want some water? Oh, okay. I went downstairs, get them some water. While I'm downstairs, someone else says, can I have some fruit? No, you can't have some fruit. Some big debate about whether they can have fruit or not because it's late at night would ensue. And then another child would come in and then they would want to read me something. And then another child would come in who had just drawn a picture and I would have to ooh and ah over the picture. And, oh, come and draw a picture with me. Okay, I'll just draw one picture with you. And then somebody else wants water. And these times, now I have just spent 30 minutes downstairs doing stuff that my husband is more than capable of doing, but I didn't let him do it because as soon as they came up to me, I was talking to them and I took over from what he was meant to be doing. And he does it perfectly well, so there was actually no need for me to do it. So these kind of mindsets will help you to become respectful of your time so that you can support yourself in that way. So those are just 5 of the things that the kind of mindsets and the kind of things that you need to be wary of that will help you to balance your family, your business, and your life without going crazy. Now, if you think about a balance is not just thrown together. It's not just some pieces of wood or metal just chucked on the floor. It doesn't just happen out of nowhere. You do need to create that balance in a very particular and specific way. I hope that makes sense. When you've created a balance in a particular way, it works. When you've got a set of scales, when you have a set of scales that you put 2 things on either sides to create balance, those scales are made in a particular way. It's not just a load of materials chucked together. You have to make scales in a particular way. Then you can put things onto those scales and let them balance out. So work is involved, planning is involved, and mindset shifts are involved in order to make things work the way that they want to work. So if you're not willing to change what it is that you're doing and do things very differently, change is not going to happen. You're going to become that insane person that keeps on doing things the same way and expecting different results just because you want things to change is not going to change them. You making things change is what's going to change them. So think about your expectations, be willing to sacrifice, start planning, know your why, and get some support. My name's Leah Salmon, the Naturally You coach and founder of the Salmon University. This has been Naturally You Radio. Again, like I said, I'm going to be hoping to put together a course that goes through this in more detail with more action plans and action steps and cheat sheets and planning sheets and all these types of things that can make this more useful for you. There's also my book, Budget, Behavior and Belief, that's going to be revised and out sometime during 2016, which goes into a lot of these things in a lot more detail also that you'll be able to get your hands on. If you have any questions, then please feel free to get in touch with me at leah@thenaturallyyoucoach.com or info@salmonuniversity.com. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care and stay healthy. Visit www.thenaturallyyoucoach.com to find out more.